The Sex Doll Podcast, brought to you by Lovedoll UK.
Hi guys, I haven't done a podcast for a little while, and I often hear people apologising for that kind of thing, and they say, I haven't done it, and I guess they're just prioritised elsewhere. The reason I haven't done the podcast is probably because I started to overcomplicate it in my mind, and I wanted to talk about a particular topic, which is the topic of emotional intelligence. It's a really large topic, and I really wanted to do it justice. I really wanted to go into depth and, give some sort of real good information about that. But the more I started thinking about it and trying to think about what I would talk about, and I kind of got in deeper and deeper. So I think probably rather than waiting to do the perfect piece, I'm just going to talk and get into it right now. So if you're not aware of the concept of emotional intelligence, it's very similar to what you would call IQ. So the general measurement of intelligence in the past has been intelligence quotient, or IQ. And that's basically, if you look on Wikipedia or something like that, it'll say something to the effect of it's a person's ability to reason. So that's how well you problem solve various things in your life, or just problems in general. Now, that obviously is a very good skill to have, and if you have a problem in front of you and if you're able to solve that to a high level, then that's obviously a very good thing. I mean, it was probably, I don't know how many years ago, but people started suddenly to talk about emotional intelligence, and I think there was a few guys who sort of wrote books about it and started to say, this is actually really important. In the past, they would say that a person's IQ was pretty much the single determiner of how well you would do in life. But there are a lot of very intelligent people out there who have poor quality lives or have a low level of success. And one of the reasons for that is sometimes that those people have a low emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is, I think, certainly for us guys, it's sometimes often quite a tough thing, because we're not taught really to talk about our feelings or to express ourselves or to try and develop that side of things, and we often just see it as a bit of a waste of time. However, emotional intelligence, so if I just do a little define emotional intelligence. Okay, so this is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Now, that's particularly relevant here because I think when we are buying dolls, which is for a long time been our primary product, 9 times out of 10, there is generally an emotional issue there, and it ranges from some really bad stories that I've heard in the past of people who've really hard time and they've gone through some really traumatic episodes in their life. And it'll range right up to people who are, they're pretty well functional in life. They kind of get on just well, but something's kind of not quite right there. They just want to relate to a non-human persona in order to work certain things out, or in order just to escape from an overburdensome emotional life that they do have. And as I said, that can range from people with a lot of issues to people with probably very few issues at all. And where the dolls come into the emotional intelligence side of things is, as I've said this before in different interviews and different things, that the lack of sort of judgment and the ability to operate in a personal, in a physical, in a sexual way with another being, so to speak, without any kind of judgment, without any pressure, and for you to be able to do that and just not judge yourself and just allow things to develop and come out, that's a very sort of healing thing, and it's certainly something that can actually increase your emotional intelligence because it allows you to experience things without the pressure and enable you to develop your feelings and observe them and sit with them. Whereas when we're trying to develop emotional intelligence with other people, or when we're trying to develop it in a hostile or a high-pressure environment, that's often very difficult because your emotions are going crazy in that moment, and yet we're trying to develop them and build them. So it's I don't think that is probably the best way to do it if you have emotional intelligence issues. So if you take it back to IQ, for example, when we're talking about problem solving, Now, that's great. And so if you're a good problem solver, that's really good. But if you have a very low emotional intelligence, if you have the emotions of a child, if you've never developed past that, or the emotions of a young person, you might come up with a situation which to some people would just be, it wouldn't be a problem, they would kind of take it in their stride. But, somebody may say something to you that you find really offensive. And a good emotional response to that might be to say something to the effect of, okay, who is this person? How much do I value their opinion? Why are they saying that to me? What impact should I have from that? Is there any growth I can do from it? That kind of thing. Now, that's generally very far from the reality. If somebody says something negative to us, most of us will have that initial reaction and we'll say, oh, I don't like that. And it's very difficult to then process, to problem solve, because you're in an emotional state where you're upset or you have a negative feeling about something. So to then, in an unbiased way, try to solve the problem, that's very difficult. And that's what then requires a high level of emotional intelligence, because that person may have said something very cutting to you or about you, but because you've had a negative reaction, your brain inside is screaming, I hate this person's an idiot, don't listen to this person. And it's very difficult to overcome that and then say, oh, hang on, does this person have a little bit of a point? Is this something I can reflect on? Is this something I can improve in my life? So the two of those, a good balance of emotional intelligence and a good IQ, together are probably a much better indicator of somebody who is going to have a happy and successful life. So I'm curious how many people are aware of the concept of emotional intelligence, or aware of how important such a thing is in their life, are actively trying to develop their emotional intelligence, or if maybe you think that feelings are overrated, which as guys, that's often something we do. That's a program that's put into us. And I'm not one for being all sort of airy-fairy and, emotional and things myself, but I do like to try and develop my emotional intelligence, because it will in a working environment or in a life environment, how you react to people will allow you to develop personal relationships as well. And again, that's what a lot of this often comes down to, especially with the doll side of things. It's we are talking personal relationships, and in many cases, we are substituting the dolls for personal relationships. Some people are doing it just for a sexual basis. Some people are creating a relationship, and they're actually substituting in a doll for a person. So instead of actually going out there and getting a girlfriend and getting married, that kind of thing, they are getting them. Now, that there's some reasons where people are divorced or they're widowed and they don't want to go back out there again, and this is it's the next best thing. But there are some people who aren't able to get into that, the personal relationship side of things, because of what we've talked about in the past. They've had a hard time, and they have various social anxieties and personal anxieties, which prevent them from going out there and meeting people. Now, a strange thing, I would say that personal relationships are better than non-personal relationships in this case, which may seem a bit strange for me to say, considering that our prime goal is to sell dolls. But it is certainly, it's preferable to have that situation. However, as we're seeing, there are definite advantages to the dolls, and there are definite times when the doll is the preferable state of affairs, either because people cannot or do not want to have relationships at that particular stage in their life, or they need to work through some emotional side of things.
So just to finish off, I would be really curious if how you guys react to this. It might just be basic common sense to a lot of you, or it may be something new to you. I'd really be interested in your experience, and if it's a topic you think we should discuss more, and if there are particular parts of it that you would like to know or like to share or like to educate the rest of us with.